You were on, was it Beat It? From
Yeah, oh yeah. No, that was funny because I did the first session we did for Quincy. I had done the Dude record with Quincy. David Foster introduced me to him. I sort of got invited to be like, in Quincy's crew, and I was like 22, 23 years old. After we did that, he came up to me and said, "Look, man, I'm going to do the next Michael record," and it was coming off the wall. So I didn't do it. I didn't do that record. He goes, "I want you to play on some of this Michael Jackson." I was like, "Going, this is going to be one of the biggest records." Okay, cool. I'm there. I'm all in. So he hired. The first thing he did was call me. He goes, "Yeah, the first track we're going to cut is with Paul McCartney." I'm like, like, trying to keep it together. Like, really? Great. So I hang up the phone. I go, I can't. I'm going to play with one of the Beatles. I'm on my own time here. The reason why I breathe and live and why I, play music. And so, and he hired Jeff Porcaro and me, and then David Paich was there too. David Foster, Louis Johnson, and I forget who else was on that day. It might have been it, and Paul and Michael. And the song was "The Girl Is Mine." And, Quincy didn't write stuff for me really. It was just chord charts, and, so I came up with a good part for the song. Well, leading up to that, I was going to meet Paul, and we were all really nervous. It almost had to be vetted because it was very soon after the tragic loss of John, being around new people in Hollywood, and just wanted, I'm not they were scared of me, but it was like they wanted to know who everybody was on the session. Super high security and all that stuff because Michael and those are the two biggest stars in the world at the time. And thrilled to be on the session, That's when I kind of went, I think that I worked my way up here, I didn't say it, but I felt it inside. I'm looking around, Paul and Linda walk in, and there's Michael, and I'm like going, this is like surreal, right? And we started jamming on I Was Made to Love Her, Stevie Wonder song, which somewhere exists on a tape, or may not, maybe they didn't roll the tape. It was Bruce Swedien, Ed Cherney was the second engineer, and Quincy and George Martin was there, Jeff Emmerich was there. I'm looking out in the room, it's like, this is like, a childhood wet dream, musical wet dream, if you will. And I wanted to go, I better play good, man, this better be good. And Paul and Linda were so gracious and nice. And Michael was cool, man, he was great. Because the first time he called me, I didn't believe it was him. I hung up on him 3 times. He called me 8 in the morning, "Hi, this is Michael." And I'm going, "F you." Sorry. And it happened 3 times, and then I got a call from Quincy's office 3 hours later. "That was really Michael, man. You better call him back." And I'm like, oh my God. So I called back the number. He answers, and I go, "This is Lukather. I don't even know what to say." He goes, "I didn't really believe it was." He goes, "I get that all the time. It's funny." So it was cool with him. So it was good. Anyway, so I get the call. Going backwards, we get the call. We go down to the session. And Paul and Linda walk in, and they were so nice and so great. And I was trying not to keep my jaw in my mouth. And just to loosen it up, I think Paige started playing "I Was Made to Love Her" because and Jeff jumped in, and I started playing, and they started singing, and it was in the phones. I'm going, this is like, you're kidding me, right? Am I gonna wake up here anymore? And it went great. And then we cut the track very quickly, and I came up with kind of a cool little part, and Paul goes, "That's a great part, man." And at that point, I could have died. And Michael was cool. Everybody was fine. Quincy was like, "This is great, man. We got the track and everything." I walked out of there going, "Wow." So then he called, I get another, then I think it was like that Beat It came because it was weird. They had cut a version of it prior to this, and they wanted Eddie Van Halen, and Ed and I are dear friends, and we were friends even back then. And he didn't do sessions or nothing like that. They had cut a version of it, and Ed and these are the days when they had 2 24-track machines, and you used to make slave tapes. You make one and then they copy, so you could do a bunch more overdubs. At the end, they put it all together in 2 reels, and you mix. That was really high-tech stuff for 1982, and we were using that stuff on our records as well. And Eddie and Don Landy, I guess, cut the 2-inch tape, and he wanted to edit and play the solo somewhere else. No, he didn't want to play on just da-da-da. He wanted to play through the verse change, so he had something to play off, some changes to play off. Well, when you cut the sympty code, it doesn't lock back up. So what they did was Eddie's solo and Michael's lead vocal, and Michael hitting 2 and 4 on a drum case, and the sympty code were on the master reel. Because Ed had cut the slave tape, they transferred that to the somehow, and then they needed to recut the track to the Saber stuff. There was no drum machines. There wasn't a click track on it at all. Just Michael, bap, 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 which is still on the record. And so Quincy goes, you got to save me. You got to save me on this. I'm still working on all this stuff over here at Westlake. You got to go to Sunset Sound with Umberto Gatica. You and Jeff go over there and see if you can fix this for me. I got to have it. It's first generation vocal, first generation Van Halen solo. You got to make this work for me so I can sync up the track with the fresh tape that hadn't been cut. So they sent it over. We listen. We can, and there, you can hear it bleed through in the lead vocal mic. So you kind of got an idea what was going on. Jeff, having the time that he had in his profession, I mean, one of the most magical human beings on planet Earth that I ever got to know and play with and be a brother with. And so Jeff went out and, with his sticks, listened to that, had it cranked in the phones, and he made his own click track, just the way he wanted to hear it, not necessarily the groove that ended up, which is more straight like this, but he put a little shuffle into it so he could make it swing, make it feel. And he went out, he goes, okay, they got a drum sound up quick. And he went out there and he did a couple takes. I think the second take was nailed. His time was perfect. It was great. He nailed it. So it was my turn. So it was like, okay, Eddie's playing on it, so I got like the Marshalls, and I played the guitar riff first. And we quadrupled and made it big, and there was no bass on it, so I said, bring me down a bass, and I'll play the bass on it. This is just the riff tune, you know, it's not like I had to be Jaco Pastorius or anything like that. And so I did all that. We sent it to Quincy. He goes, I love it, except the guitars are too heavy. I got to get this on R&B radio, pop radio, and rock radio. He goes, you know that little amp you have, that little deluxe? He goes, do that and don't quadruple, just do 2, so I can get it like that. So I did that. They loved it. And then Quincy goes, come on down with Michael. We're going to do some, he wants to add a couple of these other riffs, which the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun, and that's all they had. And that was just so monotonous. I said, why don't we do it dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, to give it something, a little different flavor. And at first they were a little hesitant, and Michael goes, I like that. So they wanted me to do this part, and they're standing there, and I did it a couple of times, and Quincy's like, it's not really in the pocket, you know, lay in the pocket a little bit more. And Michael's gave me a little bit of direction and stuff like that. Try it again. And I started doing it. When Michael started dancing around a little bit, I knew I think Quincy's like, that's great. Let's double that part, and blah, blah, blah. And that's the record. And then they mixed it. I think it might have been Steve Porcaro, great feeling, is that made the synth sound bow at the beginning of it that you never hear again anywhere in the song. And the rest is the rest. And the third track we did, Steve Porcaro wrote, Human Nature. I think John Bettis helped with some lyrics, but it's really Steve Porcaro's baby. And Steve had all these magical synthesizer things. He had all the polyfuses, and he was really early on an innovator for, even in high school he was into electronic music before anyone. He found that was his thing. You know, he wasn't Oscar Peterson, you know, or nothing like that. You know, he found a niche that nobody else was doing, which ended up being a big career for him. Steve had demoed it up. There was no guitar or anything on it. It was just synths and the chord changes and the chorus. Why? Tell them that it's human nature, right? So Quincy calls me, and he goes, like literally closer than you are. You and I he goes, look, you got to make this funky for me. You got to make this funky for me. Actually, Quincy used to come up with nicknames for people if you liked to. But my publishing company at the time was Reth the Cool Veets, and that's Steve backward. So he started calling me Veets, which is pretty funny. So he goes, Veets, you gotta make this funny for me, man. Funky for me. It's like, you know, I want to get this pop, but I got to get it on our R&B too. He was always doing the crossover king, you know, and Quincy was a great casting director, finding musicians and commingling them together to get what he wanted. And so I just came up with this part. I go, I want something a little different. So I said, I looked at Bruce Swedien. I go, I got an idea. Plug this. I had this really silly red guitar with all the, and I plugged it direct into it, and I came up with the initial part. I worked through a couple of these. He goes, that's great, that's good. He liked it so much he wrote out the part and put it on the thing. So if he liked your stuff, that's what he would do. And I came up with the part that's on the record. I said, let's double track it and give it a little, a little sideways thing, because if you notice, the guitar sounds rather interesting on that. And it worked, and it was great. And I was really actually proud of the part because it was very musical. And it, as well as a little bit funky. It wasn't like hardcore R&B funky, but it added a little lilt to the thing because it was really kind of whole notey. And Steve Porcaro hated the part, absolutely hated my guitar part. I'm like, what do you want me to say? Anyway, it becomes a huge hit record, and then he started to like the guitar part, or apparently a lot. And then Quincy liked it so much he gave me arranging credit on the record,
Well, that's nice.
and I got nominated for a Grammy for it.
Wow, that's really cool. Huh?
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.